Honorable Mayor, members of council, thank you very much for having us tonight. This is the consideration of the revised street tree planting program. My name is David Schott, Assistant Parks and Recreation Director. I'd also like to introduce Michael Ray with our Community Development Department, Assistant Community Development Director. We've really co-done this and kind of co-presenting tonight. So with that, I'm going to take you through a presentation. Start out with some of the benefits of trees, a little bit of background, an overview of our current street tree planting program, the development of our revised street tree planting program, what those revisions are, our staff recommendation, and then we'll take questions. So what are the benefits of street trees? I think we all have in our mind what a street tree and benefits of trees really are. But the City of Moscow has been recognized as Tree City USA since 1994. We have a tree commission that works for the preservation, protection, and management of the community urban forest. The installation of street trees is intended to provide long-term benefits to the community. Trees produce oxygen, clean pollutants, filter water runoff, reduce noise, and provide shade. Summertime shade afforded by tree canopies reduces air conditioning costs by minimizing the need for air conditioning. It also mitigates some of the effects of heat islands, such as parking lots, that increase air temperature. Studies have shown that the presence of trees increase residential property values and encourages shoppers to linger in commercial districts. Street trees create a buffer between the street and sidewalk for pedestrian safety. They also create a sense of place, which adds to the aesthetics of our community. Moscow is a beautiful community, and I feel that's a large part because of our trees. Sheltering effect of trees slows rain, reduces runoff, and allows more water to be absorbed into our soils and into the aquifer. In Moscow's strategic plan, it identifies a long-term goal to increase the vitality of Moscow's tree canopy. It's also mentioned in our comprehensive plan and the implementation action of Section 142 to actively promote the expansion and maintenance of the city's urban forest, ensuring street trees are planted within all new subdivisions, increased planting requirements for landscapes within and adjacent to parking lots, the heat sink of parking lots, state highway corridors, and city entrances. Also, in our standards for street tree planting, to have adequate tree lawns for room for trees, so in commercial and residential districts, which may look a little different. I'd like to go back to 2012 and our citizen survey. In 2012, the Tree Commission asked respondents to identify the most important feature of a healthy urban forest for street and park trees. The number one response, respondents felt that increasing aesthetics and property values is important, about 30% of folks. Number two, 23% of respondents thought providing shade to sidewalks and sidewalks and streets was important, reducing the city's carbon footprint and enhancing stormwater retention. When we jump into 2014, the Tree Commission asked respondents to choose the most important feature of a healthy street tree population without the parks. Numbers are similar. The number one, 29% of people thought increasing aesthetics and property values was important, providing shade to sidewalks and streets, calming traffic, enhancing pedestrian safety, and mitigating the effects of climate change. They asked a second question. They asked respondents to rate their level of agreement with the statement, "I support the city's efforts to enhance street shade trees by," and this was strongly agree or agree. 72% of respondents either strongly agreed or agreed that developing a drought-tolerant shade street planting guide was important. Number two, with 70% of respondents requiring trees to be planted in all new construction sites. Working with neighborhoods with older trees to plan for companion planting of replacement trees, 68% strongly or strongly agreed. Identify locations where shade trees are missing and working with landowners to get them planted, and subsidizing the citizen cost for new trees to encourage shade tree planting at 58%. I want to jump back in time a little bit to the late 90s and early 2000s. The city, through a series of resolutions, established the Tree Planting Dedication Fund. This was done to increase street trees in new subdivisions. This is our current program. The developer is required to pay $100 per tree as allocated by the Parks and Recreation Department to the Tree Planting Dedication Fund based on the final plat. Community Development sends that over to Parks and Recreation. We allocate the trees according to our Board of Culture specifications and standards.
Excuse me, David. It was hard kind of hearing in the background noise. So.
Absolutely. So the funds collected are deposited in the Tree Planting Dedication Fund under the Parks and Recreation Department, which can be distributed to homeowners to plant trees in the public right-of-way adjacent to their property in qualifying subdivisions. This is a voucher-based program. It only supplies, or it was intended to only the supplies of the trees, not the installation. So, to promote the program, we've historically had door hangers out there and tried to promote this program. To date, these are the results. So right now, as of today, our percent utilization is 54%. I would note these three subdivisions are largely being built. Peekaboo Estates hasn't had any homes built on it. Rolling Hills, as of this summer, only had 5 homes. You take out the gray, we're at about 65%. So our utilization rate's really 54% to about 65%. To increase that utilization, the Tree Commission and Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed our current program and utilization rates, and they discussed some options. Option 1 was to keep the existing program. Option 2 was required subdivision developers to plant the trees. And Option 3 was to require a contractor or homeowner to plant trees before the certificate of occupancy for individual homes. Both commissions reviewed the advantages and disadvantages and voted on Option 3. In addition, they created the Street Tree Advisory Committee to gather stakeholder input. The committee consisted of a subdivision developer, contractor, an attorney, a citizen, planning and zoning commissioners, and a tree commission member. Research was also provided by our Community Development Department to the Street Tree Advisory Committee, indicating a lot of communities in Idaho require street trees to be planted prior to the issuance of a building permit or CO. Street Tree Advisory Committee recommended Option 3 with the caveat they wanted to see an option for a security for full certificate of occupancy. Reason for this is there's some issues with bank financing, inability to plant trees during some times a year. Today's not a good day to plant trees, so there needed to be some flexibility. So based upon the Street Tree Advisory Committee, the Tree Commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, staff proposed a revised street tree planting program. The revisions included street trees shall be required to be installed prior to the issuance of a building permit. Contractor submits plans to Community Development Department for a new principal structure or substantial improvement to an existing structure upon any lot or parcel or land within the city of Moscow. At this point, there's kind of 2 ways you can go. We broke it out into single and 2-family dwellings prior to the issuance of the building permit. Or substantial improvement to a single or 2-family dwelling. The applicant will have 3 options. They can install the required street trees. They can enter into an agreement to require the installation of the street trees prior to the issuance of the final CO for the structure. Or they can furnish a financial security in the form acceptable to the city set by fee resolution each year, as adopted by council. For multifamily and commercial, this is a little different. As part of that process, they submit a landscape plan. This will be for any principal structure, substantial improvement. The landscape plan will identify the number, location, and type of street trees and for approval by the Community Forestry Administrator, which is my office. Required street trees for such projects shall be installed prior to the CO for any multifamily or commercial principal structure. If it's requested the CO is issued prior to the installation of the required street trees. The applicant will furnish a financial security set by fee resolution, as I mentioned earlier. The financial security, if that option is chosen, it'll be established within our fee resolution as adopted by council and shall be a form acceptable to the city. The Moscow Tree Commission considered this on December 6th of 2016 and recommended a financial security of $250 per tree. This is for the cost of the tree and the installation. I've been hearing the cost of the tree, the installation's anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 times the cost of the tree. So at $250, you could get a $100 tree, $150 for the installation. So, release of the security. It'll be released when the applicant or property owner within 60 days of inspection and approval by the Community Forestry Administrator. I would note that this can be planted by the applicant, property owner, or they can hire a contractor and pay them, and then the city would release that financial security. So, if the applicant does not install the required street trees for 24 months from the date of the CO for the principal structure, the city may utilize a security to pay the costs of installing the required street trees. Kind of where we're at, the staff sought feedback from the Administrative Committee on October 24th of 2016. The committee recommended proceeding with the proposed direction. The Tree Commission considered and recommended approval for the proposed changes on January 5th of this year. The City of Moscow Administrative Committee reviewed the proposed changes and recommended council approval last week.